Janome.
Hey everyone, I just couldn't leave with this first introductory class for the Block of the Month Blitz without adding one more section to let you do some early preparation work to make sure you're all ready for starting to sew the blocks next month. So we're here in my new studio. We've since moved and relocated to the center of the Outback in Alice Springs, Australia. And I've got the Block of the Month Blitz quilt up on the wall, and you can see it here. But let's dive in and talk about the last step, the bonus step that you're going to find in your handouts that looks just like this. Now, if you look at the quilt here where you see the purple star points, there's a couple of the strips in your bundle, whether or not you're using the solidish, that if you only have 2 strips of a certain color that you want to make your star points, and also the background around the center star, we're going to use almost every inch of those 2 strips. So I thought we'd take a few moments to cut them, sew them, and prepare them in advance to make sure that you don't inadvertently cut them at another part of the process in making our blocks so that you would run out of the right fabric at the end. So if you're following along and using your solidish strips in the same colors that I am, and it truly is okay if you're using your own jelly roll or your own strips from your stash, but you need to think about what's going to be your big star points. And on this particular quilt and this block, it's the purple or the violet and the grape. So I have those strips pulled aside, and you'll need 2 of each. Let's talk about those first and what we need to do. You would take those 4 strips and we're going to trim them to 36 inches each. So come on over here and watch how I set this up and do that. So what you want to do is you want to open your strips up, and I'm just going to do 2 at a time here. And the first thing we're going to do is line them up. You can see I've got my violet strips lined up. It doesn't matter if they're right sides or wrong sides up. And we want to trim off the selvage edge. So let's go ahead and trim off those selvage edges. Use your precision jelly roll ruler. Trim off those selvage pieces. All right, and now what we're going to do is line them up right at the 18-inch line on our mat here. You can see I've got the 18-inch line right here. And what we're going to do is then take the strip and fold it over, because we want to save every little bit of that strip, and we're going to literally make sure that we have it lined up on the 18-inch, fold it in half, smooth it out. So what I'm doing is I'm back here at the 0 line over here to your left, and I'm going to go ahead and line this up. And make sure to use the lines on your mat. So over here, I've got right on the 0 line, I've got my fold. I've lined it up. So I have the 18-inch line. Make sure you're very accurate here. And I've got the 18-inch line, and we're going to cut right at the 18-inch line so that when we open it up, we will have 36 inches. All right, check once again, because you know what Grandma used to say, measure twice and cut once. Line up your ruler right on the lines of your mat and go ahead and cut, and that will give you a piece left over that looks like this. Do this on all 4 strips. Now you have your 36-inch strips left of your violet and your grape. And in just a moment, we're going to go to the machine and we're going to sew them together using our perfect scant 1/4 inch seam like we talked about. This is a good chance for you to test it out, give it a test drive, and see how it works for you. When these are sewn, they should measure 4.5 inches wide, and we're going to make 2 different strip sets. But I wanted to show you exactly what they're going to turn into. They're going to turn into units that look just like this. And this is where you see it. You might be able to see it better here if I reach up there, and you're seeing that we're making these star points. Now, the only reason we're tackling these again right up front is because you do need every inch of those fabrics in order to make the quilt. And you don't want to do a miscut or use it for something else and then get to the end and say, oh, I don't have enough of those strips left. So that's why we're doing this right up front. And I think we're ready to head over to the machine now. Again, you're going to sew these together using your perfect scant 1/4 inch seam. We're going to press those seams to the violet color, to the darker purple. Press those seams nice and pancake flat, and then come back here and I'll show you what to do. Okay, we're taking this step by step, and you're well on your way. You should have 2 strip units that are 36 inches long, and we need to make sure that they measure 4.5 inches wide. So now's a really good time to take your precision jelly roll ruler or your precision pre-cuts and literally lay it onto the strip and make sure that you're looking at the 4.5 inch line, which is this mint green line right here, and it should measure exactly 4.5 inches wide. If it's too small or too large, I would recommend that you take time to rip it out, adjust your seam allowance just a little bit more, and make it as perfect as you possibly can, because it's really important that these star points measure accurately when we make these units, so that when you get to this part, when we make this giant star, everything's going to fit together perfectly. So really it's important right now to take time to make sure you get the length and the width just perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to layer these. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong sides together. I've just got my strips layered, but I've got the edges perfectly lined up, because what we need to do from here is we need to cut 8 9-inch long rectangle units. So because they're layered, and you could do this in single layer if you want to be extra careful, but I'm just going to layer mine, so I cut 2 at a time. And we're going to lay the precision jelly roll ruler on top of our strips right at the 9-inch line. So I have, if you're counting, this is a 10-inch wide ruler. Here's my 9 inches, and we're going to cut this into rectangle units that are 9 inches. So here's my first 2 right here. I've got 2 that measure 9 inches. We're going to do 2 more. Make sure that you line this up right on the 9-inch line. Hold it steady. Go ahead and cut those 2. We're going to cut 2 more. Remember, 9 inches. We want these 9 inches long. Whoops. There we go. 2 more. And then finally, the last 2. And on this one, I have just a smidgen to trim off, and that's okay. You just don't want to be short. All right. So there we go. We have all 8 of our units. Now we need to make another cut, and you'll need to be following along right here. This is the bullet we're at right now where it says use the 45-degree line on the precision jelly roll or the precision pre-cuts ruler and align it on the bottom of each rectangle unit as sewn. Now what we're going to need mirror image units. And the best way to cut these is to align 2 units and follow along carefully here. What we need is we're going to need 2 units with the violet at the bottom, because we see more of the violet color, the dark purple, than we see the grape. So we're going to be cutting an angle, and we want mirror image units to appear. So you're going to take 2 and you're going to put them right sides together with the violet on the bottom, or closest to you. The violet should be closest to your body. Line it up. The seams will not snuggle or oppose. They really will just lay on top of each other. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take the 45-degree line, which is the only diagonal line on this ruler. That's the 45-degree line. There's actually little numbers right there that says 45 degrees. We're going to lay the 45-degree line along the bottom of the strip unit right to the point. And can you zoom in there and get that real good? We have the 45-degree line at the bottom right to the corner point. Now remember, these are folded or layered right sides together. And we're going to cut from here to here. And that's going to give us our mirror image units. So when you have that 45-degree line aligned with the violet strips, go ahead and cut these units off, and make sure to save these units for later, because we can use the grape to make those other blocks. So put those aside, and when you open these up, you have mirror image units just like this. See that? There you go. So this is what it would look like once we're going to get the background fabric sewn on. That's exactly what we're cutting here. We've cut the first mirror images of the grape and violet strip units. Let's keep going. Let's do them together so that we make sure that we do it right and there's no mistakes. I want to walk through this with you, not even in time lapse. Let's do this together. I'm going to have Mr. Kim walk around and kind of watch me. I'll talk us through it, but you can watch what I'm doing, and Cheeto's chiming in here. Remember, you want to start with your strips with the violet facing closest to you and your grape farthest away, and you're going to fold them right sides together and make sure that they're lined up beautifully. And then take your jelly roll ruler, your precision jelly roll ruler, line up the 45-degree line right at the bottom of the grape, at the bottom of the violet. And we're going to make sure we go right to that point. And then we're going to go ahead, hold the ruler in place, cut off these side corners, set these aside for later. And there's another set of your mirror image star points. Let's do it for the next group. Violet towards you. Fold them right sides together. Line up the edges perfectly. The 45-degree line right like this. At the bottom, line it up. Hold it in place. Make sure it goes right to the corner. Trim. And put those aside, and let's stack these. And let me take a moment and set it up just for our left-handed friends, because I want to make sure our left-handed friends know exactly how to do this. I'm going to lay the strips straight out in front of me like this, so it's going away from my body instead of going more horizontally. These are vertically. Now you're going to lay your ruler so that we've got the 45-degree line on the right side of the strip. We've got it on the grape this time, but we're going to move this back. And again, make sure your units are completely lined up. Move it back so that we have the ruler looking like this. I have the 45-degree line on the right side of the grape here, and we've got the angle going this way so that when we cut for left-handers, we're literally going to cut across your stomach like this. Now, I can't physically cut like a left-hander, but now you can see this is exactly what we want to do, because we will be cutting off more of the lighter purple or the grape than we're cutting of the violet or the dark. So when this is cut, you will see, here, let me line up one like this. You will see that this is what you'll be left with. See that? So that's how you would line it up if you're a left-hander. And go ahead and do that. For all of our right-handers, continue to work with it this way, where we have the violet closest to us. The 45 is at the bottom of the strip. And we're going to trim this off, put that aside, and now we have all of our mirror image units cut. So now we need to take a 4.5-inch strip of our background fabric and our precision flying geese and half square triangle ruler. Now we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to use this ruler in our next class together, in the second installment of the Block of the Month Blitz class. But for right now, I don't want to overwhelm anyone. What I want you to do is, when you have your ruler, you'll see that it's two sides. We have side A, which is in magenta pink, and we have side B. If you flip it upside down, side B is in mint green, and you can read the words and the numbers and you can see it, but then everything on side A is upside down. So this is literally a two-sided ruler. We're going to be focusing right now just on side B of the ruler, because we need to cut 4.5-inch triangles that will fit on the sides of our little strip units. So that's what we're going to do. If you're a right-handed cutter, when you're using this ruler, your strips are going to lay to your right. The bulk of your strips are going to lay to your right. Just like you read from left to right, you're going to cut from left to right. And I have this strip folded wrong sides together. You could do it right sides together, it doesn't matter, but you do want to make sure that your 4.5-inch strip is layered in half, that you folded it in half so that you're cutting mirror image units 2 units at a time. And I have this strip laid out so that the bulk of it is on the right. Oh, Cheeto decided to join us and help micromanage us, and that's okay. I love having Cheeto in the studio, and I think he's missed me being in the studio. But anyway, we've got the strips laid out. We're going to use side B of the ruler. That's the mint green side. Now, because these strips are 4.5 inches wide, we need to look for the 4.5-inch mark on the ruler. Now, it'd be better if I laid it on the fabric here and showed you exactly what I mean. So we're going to line this up, make sure that your selvage edge is cut off, and here, and let me put this on a dark piece of fabric just so you can see. There is a 4.5-inch mark there with a little arrow. See that? That means you put that at the bottom of your strip unit. So I'm going to move this over and line up that 4.5-inch line right on the bottom of the strip. And we've got the edge of the ruler lined up on that cut edge right over there. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut some triangle units with this little flat top edge at the top of the ruler. It aligns at the top of your strips. So go ahead, hold the ruler in place, and let me give you a quick little tip about how to hold your ruler. If you put your hand flat on the ruler, it can slide. Don't do that. Now remember, this is a two-sided ruler, so we don't want to put sandpaper dots or non-slick stuff on our ruler, because we do need it to move. We do need it to move along, but we're going to control the movement with our pinky. Your pinky is your rotary cutting best friend. So what you do is line up the ruler, take your fingers, kind of curve them up, get the palm of your hand off the ruler, and take your pinky and put it right next to the ruler but on the mat. Do you see that? I have my fingers and my thumb on the ruler, but my pinky is over here. Not out here, My pinky is right next to the ruler on the mat, and when I go to cut these triangles, that ruler will not slip, it won't slide, it won't go anywhere. This is a great rotary cutting tip for any rotary cutting that you do with any ruler. So now that we've cut those cute little triangles, so those 4.5-inch triangles, here's what they look like. You're going to have mirror image units. Do you see that? And each of them will have a little flat edge. That's their built-in 1/4-inch seam allowance, just perfectly there waiting for you when you get to the machine to sew, which we're going to do in a minute. Now we're going to take the ruler and rotate it. Don't flip. Keep it on side B. Make sure that you can continue to read the words and the numbers on the mint green side, side B. We're going to rotate that ruler 180 degrees. Now the tip of the ruler is pointing directly away from you, and we're going to line up the ruler so that the diagonal edge is on the last diagonal cut that we did. We're going to hold the ruler in place with your pinky off on the mat. The 4.5-inch line is on the top of the strip now. And you see how we have that lined up so perfectly? There's no wasted fabric. This is an awesome ruler. I think you're going to love it. And we need to cut a total of 8 of these triangles, 4 of each mirror image. So then rotate the ruler again 180 degrees, lay it back on top of the strip, and we're going to line it up on that 4.5-inch line now at the bottom of the strip unit. Hold it in place, lock it in with your pinky, and go ahead and cut. Here's 2 more of those cute little triangles. We'll line those up here. One last rotation here like this. Rotate 180 degrees. Line this up and go ahead and make the last cut. And that's all we're going to need to do with this background piece for today. Open up your triangles, and now we're going to move over to the machine, and we're going to literally sew these triangles to those beautiful strip units that we just cut. As you can see, the quality control manager has moved over to the sewing machine to make sure that I'm doing this right. I promise you, we do not call him in here. He just kind of runs the roost here at the Einmo Inn. Now, we have 1 of each of our strip units, our star point strip units. And now you're going to need 1 each of those triangles. These are the mirror image units. Remember, we cut them together, and when you open them up, they are mirror images. Now, when you get ready to put these on, make sure that the lopped off edge is closest to the grape or the light purple color. So you see how I have the lopped off edge here and I have the lopped off edge over here. What we want to do is align these point to point, raw edge to raw edge, and you will see now that this aligns perfectly. This little lopped off edge at the top goes right across the top of the grape color, and what we're going to do is we're going to sew starting down here at this side right here, and we're going to sew our 1/4 inch, our scant 1/4 inch seam just perfectly, and I'll make sure he doesn't get his paws under the needle just for safety. And see, I can multitask, but he's checking everything out. And we want to come right to the edge here so that when we're done sewing, and I just want you to see this, we want our stitches to come right out here, right at the point. So we're aiming to go right there, and that's our perfect built-in 1/4 inch seam allowance. So go slow the first couple times you do this. There we go, I nailed it, and so will you. So you can see, maybe we can zoom in there, that we want to sew our perfect scant 1/4 inch seam allowance and come right out at the point there. And that's what we're looking to do. So we're going to do that, and now we're going to align the mirror image unit. Now for this one, we're going to start at that lopped off edge. I always like to sew with the background triangles on top because it allows me to keep track. If any of them slip or slide, we can adjust and make sure that they don't slide off the edge, so that we keep those edges beautifully aligned and together. So let's start up here this time. Go ahead and lower your presser foot. Start right at that lopped off edge corner, and we're going to sew right to the bottom of the point. There we go. So I want you to do this on all 8 of your units. Oops, there we go. Sometimes we just need to give it a little helping hand. So I want you to do this on all 8, and then we're going to move over to the pressing mat, and we're going to press the seams toward the background fabric triangle, not towards the strip set. When we press, we want to make sure we're pressing toward the background fabric triangle. So get yours done. Join me over at the pressing mat, and we'll get them all pressed and ready to go. These are bias edges here, so we need to be very careful about how we treat them. Now, if you're using a 2.4 stitch length, you should be just fine. But I like to make sure that I press the seam closed first with a very hot iron. I like steam in my iron. Even if you don't press the steam button, what that moist heat coming out of there does is makes those threads sink down into those biased edge seams and hold on real tight, so it's extra stability. So that's why you want to use 50 weight cotton thread in your bobbin and their top thread, because that cotton thread is going to work a lot harder for you than polyester. It's going to help stabilize those bias seams. So go ahead and first set the seam, press it closed, and then carefully open up the unit. Get the tip of your iron in there, kind of give it a nice little push, but don't stretch. Just give it a nice little push, maybe hit it with some steam right now just to, again, set that the seam there. And when you get done, you'll have a unit that looks just like this. Don't worry about that little dog ear. We're going to trim off that next. But get all your units all pressed nice and flat and meet me over at the cutting table, and we're going to do the trimming up. We have our purple star points all sewn and pressed, but now we need to trim them up. We're almost done with these. Hang in there with me. Now, these are going to measure 4.5 by 8.5 inches. So what we need to do is we need to take one at a time. And we're going to use that precision jelly roll ruler again, and we're going to use the 45-degree line and line it up right on top of the seam line here. We're going to put that on top of the seam line so that the seam line completely disappears, and we can see that it measures 4.5 inches wide by 8.5 long. Actually, it's a smidgen long. So what we're going to do is we're going to just lop off the little dog ear. Then we're going to spin the unit 180 degrees, line this up. Now we're looking for the 8.5 inch lines over here. They're just little hash marks. Here's the 8. We're going to go a ½ inch more, line it up and measure. And if it's even a smidgen long, we're going to take off that little bit of schmutz right there, the schmutz, and get rid of these little pieces. And now we have a perfect 4.5 by 8.5 inch rectangle strip unit. This is just one of the 8 that we're going to need for our star points. So go ahead and trim up all of your units and get them all 4.5 by 8.5 inches. And then we're going to tackle the orange and the lemon strips. So I did all of one side of my little star points with it right sides up. But now you'll notice if you're doing the mirror image side, all of a sudden that seam doesn't align with the 45-degree line on your ruler. Well, this is a simple fix. All you're going to do is trim it from the wrong sides up. So flip it upside down, lay your 45-degree line on the ruler on top of the seam, and go ahead and trim these to 4.5 by 8.5. We are done with our purple star points. Aren't you excited? Now you can just put these aside for now, put them somewhere with your project, but bury them a little bit so we're not going to do anything with them for a couple of months. But be sure and put those other pieces, those leftover pieces of the grape and the violet with your star points. Let's set them aside, and we're going to come back and talk about the orange and the lemon strips next. Everything's done with our purple star points, and I'm so proud of you for following along. Now we have to address the orange strips and one lemon strip, because you can see here that we've used quite a bit of orange and lemon in some of these other units, and especially up there as the kind of the background area behind that big star in the center. Well, you end up using just about every inch of those oranges. So it's really important that you follow along carefully with the bullets listed here. And I've listed them out. I'm going to cut them with you right now in order. It is essential that you cut these in order and try really hard not to make any cutting errors, because we need all of those pieces if you want to make the quilt exactly like you see it here. So let's do it together. The first thing we're going to do is take one orange strip folded wrong sides together, just like it came off the roll, and we're going to trim the selvage edges, just the selvage edges. So use your precision jelly roll ruler, and let's go ahead and trim those selvage edges off. Make sure it's a nice, beautiful, straight edge. Set that ruler aside. And now what we're going to do is use side B of our ruler, again, the mint green side, and we're going to line up the 2.5-inch line on the ruler with the bottom of the orange strip. So now what we're going to do is the first cut has to be this cut. Again, the 2.5-inch line is right here. Hold the ruler in place, and we're going to cut 2 of those triangles. So you can see we have 1, 2 triangles right there. Set these aside for now, and we're going to stack them up. The next bullet tells you to use side A of the ruler. So we're going to flip the ruler over to side A. Here, you can see it right here. Just like that, side A. Now the magenta words and letters and numbers are all facing you, but we're going to turn it so that it aligns this way. And the 2.5-inch line, or the markings of that line, align with the top of the strip, top of the orange strip. So really, you see the words side A, but they're kind of upside down to you because we want the little lopped off edge of the ruler at the bottom of your strip. We're going to use that last diagonal edge right here. And now I'm going to come over here and cut this. It's a little awkward here. And we're going to just cut that. And okay, now we have 2 of those rectangles. Set those aside. Now we need to cut some trapezoids. And how to do this is easy as long as you follow along. We're going to use side A of the ruler. So we're going to literally use side A facing right sides up, but we're going to go look for the 4.5-inch markings on the ruler. And we're going to align it on the bottom of the strip. So now you see we've got a big old chunk underneath the ruler there The top of the ruler is hanging way over the edge, but you can see the 4 by 8 there, the 4.5 inches right here, and what we're going to be cutting are trapezoids. That means the 2-inch line should align on the top of this 2.5-inch strip. So you can see that. Once you have that aligned, go ahead, hold the ruler in place and cut these trapezoids. Now we need 4 of those. Here we have 2 at a time here. There's our trapezoids. Don't you love all this geometry? It's okay, you're gonna ace this. And now we need 2 more trapezoids. So we rotate the ruler very slowly, but making sure to keep the side A of the ruler right sides up. And we're going to now take the ruler and align the 4.5-inch markings on top of the strip, okay? That means that a portion of the ruler is hanging off down here, and this is the 2-inch line that is now aligned on the bottom of the strip. If you want to check yourself, take those trapezoids, lay them on top of the ruler. They should fit just right across that. And once you have that lined up, hold the ruler firmly in place and go ahead and cut. There's your other 2 trapezoids. Good job, good job. And now the last bullet says that we are going to cut another pair of side B triangles. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, flip this upside down now, rotate the ruler so that we can align this just like that, all right? Now you can see we have the 2.5-inch line on the ruler on the top of the strip, and let's go ahead and cut that. Now, normally you would say, oh, you can't really use this for anything. It's really not even a 2.5-inch square. But I'm going to tell you not to throw this away because you can actually get 2 more side B 2.5-inch triangles out of this piece that's left over. If you were to take this over and press it flat, you could align this and get 2 more triangles out of this unit. So hang on to this for now, but let's move on to the next section. So the hardest part is done. You've got your trapezoids, you're ready to roll. Now we just need to cut a few squares, a few rectangles, and 4 more pairs of side B triangles. So let's go ahead and go back to using our precision jelly roll ruler or our precision pre-cuts ruler. Let's take off the selvage edge of the next orange strip. Again, leave it folded, wrong sides together. Get rid of the little selvage piece, and what we're going to start with is we need 4 2.5-inch squares. This is a breeze. Go ahead and put your ruler down here, and you'll see that these mint green lines on this ruler make it so easy to see at a glance exactly what you're cutting. You can see the 2.5-inch marks right there, and you want to cover the raw edges of your strips so that the raw edges disappear. You don't want to see that fabric sticking out to the left of that line. You don't want to see matte. You want to literally cover the raw edges, and when the raw edges disappear, you know you are cutting 100% accurately. So go ahead and we're going to cut 2 squares, 2 2.5-inch squares, perfect, beautiful squares. We're going to cut 2 more squares. Line up your ruler. You can see easily that you have 2 more squares. Now we need 4 rectangles, and here we have a 2.5 by 4.5-inch rectangle. So make sure when you're lining this up, you're using the 2.5-inch line and the 4.5-inch line so that we get perfect rectangles, and we need 4 of those. Again, follow along with the bullets just as they are listed on your handout, and we're going to get those units cut. There's 2 more rectangles, and now we need some more of those side B triangles. So again, make sure you're using the mint green side of your ruler. Line those up. Here we go. We're going to cut, there's 2, and rotate the ruler away from you. The point of the ruler goes away from you. Line it up. Go ahead and cut 2 more. Rotate the ruler back around. Line it up here. I'm telling you, there's no waste with these rulers. There's your 3rd pair, and the 4th pair is right here. So you get a total of 4 pairs or 8 of these triangles. There you go, and this is all you're left with. So there you have it. All the orange is now cut. Just be sure to set the orange pieces aside. We'll use them when we come to them. You won't have to cut them then because we've already done it. We've ensured that the strips that we were coming the closest to using up every bit of, we have taken care of that today in the introduction. And the last thing we have to do is cut one of our lemon strips. So what we're going to do is, again, follow along on your handout just as it's listed with the bullets there, and we're going to go ahead and cut those right now. The last thing you have to do is cut the units that you're going to need from your lemon strip. So let's start with the precision jelly roll ruler to remove the selvage edges. And again, you need to follow along exactly as the bullets are listed so you'll get all the units cut out of this strip. The first thing we need are 4 2.5-inch squares. So we're going to line up the ruler to cut our squares. There's 2. Here's the next set. Here's 4. And now we're going to cut the next bullet, which says use side B of the flying geese ruler to cut a pair of triangles. Again, remember, side B is the mint green side, should be face up, and you're using the 2.5-inch lines on your ruler. Why don't you come around here and get a closer look as we cut these next units in order, and I'll walk you through it. So we're going to cut one set of side B triangles, and that gives us that nice diagonal edge. Now you're going to want to flip the ruler over to side A, and we're going to use the diagonal edge on the fabric with the diagonal edge of the ruler. Now the 2.5-inch marks on the ruler are at the top. We're going to step in here a little bit, and we're going to cut this. There you go. Now you have your side A triangles. You can see that the side B triangles are smaller than the side A triangles, and there's a definite reason for this, and we'll get into that more next month. Now we're going to flip the ruler around, keep it on side A, and cut 2 more side A triangles. So that gives you a total of 4 of those side A triangles. Remember, we're cutting 2 at a time. I have them layered here. So we're cutting 2 at a time. There's 4. And now we're going to go back to side B, and we're going to cut 1 pair of side B triangles. See, again, we have the diagonal edge of the fabric lined up with the diagonal edge of the ruler. The 2.5 is now at the top of your strip. Cut that. Make sure to label that for block J, and then we need 4 more triangle pairs. Rotate the ruler, use side B of the ruler to cut. You can move in a little closer here if you want, Mr. Kim, and we will cut 4 pairs, and this is for block H. And again, you're going to want to label everything before you put everything away in preparation for next month. And here we go. There's the second pair. Rotate the ruler, line it up. Are you getting the hang of how to use the ruler? I hope so, because it is a lot of fun. There we go. We can get 1 more out of there. Look at this. We just did it. We saved everything, and we only had a tiny little leftover piece. Look at that. That's all that's left over of that lemon strip. That's it! You have passed the first introductory class for the Block of the Month Blitz. I'm thrilled that you joined me. There was a lot, and you might want to go back and take your time, Do it slowly, carefully. Pause the video when you need to. Do the cuts, watch it several times just to be sure, and go ahead and get everything prepared, because next month we dive in and we make 3 of the blocks, starting with this one right here. We're going to get 3 of those blocks done, and we're really going to cruise. We're going to do a lot of sewing next time. We're going to do some cutting too, and a lot of sewing. I'm so glad you've decided to join me and Cheeto and Mr. Kim. You want to wave goodbye? Thank you so much. We'll see you next month for the next 3 blocks, and I can't wait to see you then. Take care.